What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilkin. You know what day of the week it is, at least some of you do. We are covering Chapter 35 of Wistoria Wand and Sword. We got about, I think, 10, 11 chapters left before we catch up. So we're catching up pretty quick, but this one was a lot of fun. So last chapter we met Serwin, right? And she's kind of this mystery character, and we get a lot of explanation this episode. But everyone's kind of like, we've heard that name before. Why do we know that name? They're like, oh, she's one of the 7 wonders of the academy. Essentially, what they're saying is more or less like there's all these rumors about how she works and where she comes from. And she's like, I've been watching you guys for a while. And Julius does not trust her at all. Julius is like, she cannot be trusted. She is a problem. And the whole time Will's like, no, we got this. We're good. And Julius is like, no, you don't understand. Like, she takes people away in the middle of the night and then, like, does experiments on them. And, it's really cryptic what he's saying. But she's, like, at least on the surface so far, seems to be, not that bad. In fact, they go to this big banquet hall, and there's all this food, and Will's just digging in the whole time. Julius is like, nah, I ain't falling for it. I am absolutely not falling for it. There's more to this. There has to be more than this. But even Kiki seems cool with it. So, we see Kiki from time to time, and she's kind of like, best we could tell, like the litmus test for the situation. And this is kind of indicative of Julius anyway. Like, he's not going to trust no matter what. He's just, that's the way he kind of works. And then we find out that old girl up here is actually her, hence they wear basically the same garb, is basically like her junior in training, her apprentice, as they put it. So, yeah, this is all just very, very out of the blue. And Julius ain't having it. He just flat doesn't trust her. And he's like, she could be an assassin for all we know. She could be poisoning us. She could sneak up us and just unalive us in the middle of the night. We flat do not know. And she's like, oh, let me assure you, if I had ill intent, you'd be the first to know. And she literally conjures up one of each elemental spell, with the exception of light, that is behind her. Everything except for light, which I think is something really interesting about the character, but we'll kind of save that for a little bit later. And they even notice, they talk about this, they're like, she can conjure every magic spell, and she did it without them basically being aware she was even conjuring. Like, she did it in 2 seconds. Yeah. But yeah, once again, she's like, if I had any malintent, you'd be the first to know it. And I love how just Will's going along with it. Will's just like, yeah, cool. Seems legit, right? And Julius is absolutely not having it. Now, you got to remember, not only is Julius like, he's really double time watching out for number one. Number one, he even admitted to Will that he's using him at this point, right? He's like, I had this scheme. This was going to be like my way into the tower. Yeah. Number 2, and it seems like she's using Will now for whatever purposes. So, like, he's just kind of looking out for himself there. Number 2, he still just flat doesn't trust her. And he's, was recently regarded colorless, and he doesn't have, like, anywhere to go in the tower now that he's there. Like, it is just, he's just on sensory and frankly, like, just overload, basically. And she's like, I know a little bit about Whis. The magical spell that essentially Will is sort of kind of capable of using. And she's like, there are certain attitudes in the in the tower that are going to be unfavorable for you, and I'm here to kind of mediate between those. And this is when we get a little bit of an idea of exactly, a lot of it of an idea of exactly what she means. So remember, this guy was the one that was like vehemently against Will. And they even mentioned like this dude does like experiments and things like that. And even his protege seems pretty weirded out. But there's a lot of talk here about the Mage Slayer swords. I think they called it the Sleem. The headless and old boy called it the Sleem. And he's even got one of the monsters here basically in stasis. So, to make a long story short, essentially what he's doing is he's just experimenting on these things, trying to figure out what's up. And this guy is dark. He says he wants to find Will. He wants to basically find a way to weaponize Whis, have every mage in the tower learn it, and he's like, and I will literally open him up and find out what makes him tick. And he means it literally. That is a pool of blood. And you see, they talk about how they basically call him the dissector, as he pulls the beating heart out of the monster that he has sitting on his table. The demented dissector. That's a whole other level right there. Even his protege is just shocked by his cruelty and his weirdness. This guy is just off the rails. And he's just more or less bathing in the now corpse of this monster. And he's like, the next mystery to unravel is Whis, which tells us 100% there is no question. There is no he would just basically vivisect Will to try to figure out what makes him tick. This guy is sick, and he is a problem, which is probably why Serwin got involved. Let's be fair. So, little juxtaposition. Dude covered in blood and is like, I am straight up going to cut him open and figure out how he ticks. We got Serwin, who's just sipping tea and I had planned to wait a little bit longer and bide my time and take a look at you two and figure out what we're gonna do, but kind of can't do that now. So it seems like she knows what's up. She 100% knows what's up. No questions asked. She understands. Plus, she also says that Elfie came to her and was basically begging her to help out. So Will's like, I trust her. And Julius is like, I don't, but hey, you do you, buddy. And she's like, aw, these two are great friends. Yeah, I question old girl's taste right at the moment, but hey, it is what it is. And she's like, we're going to be the best of buddies. And then looks straight at Will and is like, now get undressed. Which... I'm just saying. Why is he arguing? I'm just saying. So as, but it all has there's a legitimate point to all this. She's literally just inspecting all of his wounds, all of his scars. Even Julius is shocked by the state of his body. Dude looks he's got the scars of Guts or somebody like that. But Vash the Stampede, those types of dudes. But he's nowhere near that, I guess Vash wasn't that buff either. But dude he's been through some stuff. And she's like, I want to hear about this scar straight on his back. And he's like, I think I got that protecting Elfie when we were kids. And she's like, cool. Let me know a little bit more about that. She's just kind of pressing him for information. And she's trying to look, try to figure out what he's doing. And she's like, she basically mentions that she's found the gate, she just needs the key. And we don't quite fully understand what she means by that, but she's already kind of admitted she's looking for the Whis. She's looking for a way to kind of get into Will's power. She even mentions that he has magical power within him. He's just basically unable to harness it, is more or less where we're at. So... which goes a little bit against what we've kind of learned, but it does make a bit of sense. She's like, the blood of a mage runs deep in your veins. You can store magic, but for whatever reason, you're unable to use magic, and that's what your Whis is. It's essentially a way that you can then channel and harness that magic You just can't use it in a traditional sense, which, makes a lot of sense. That actually explains a lot about how he ticks. And more or less, she's just trying to, pressure him into trying to figure out where, what's going on, why he can't do it, and why, she's basically trying to figure out what makes him tick. She's just not. Basically, what this whole chapter, more or less, is like two different methods of the same thing. You got one dude who literally wants to vivisect him, and old girl here who's basically just, the magical version of a psychiatrist, I guess. Just really kind of prodding him, trying to figure out where what his life experiences, and trying to make him fully understand more or less how his own powers work, because he doesn't even seem to fully understand it. And she's like, what we're going to do now is a little test. He's like, a test? Yeah. She's like, I will now channel my magic into the key and send it back into your past. So, literally there's a key. It more or less, it just kind of goes into his scar. And as she's opening up this, pit, he falls in. And he goes into, this void of all his memories. He's literally watching his life flash before his eyes. Just completely, literally watching his life flash before his eyes. Lands on the ground. And there's Alfie. Says, we're going into the woods. It's going to be dangerous. But don't worry. I'll protect you. And that is where the chapter leaves off. So we're going to pick up with chapter 36 on Sunday. Make sure you guys are here for that. We're getting so close to catching up, which is both exciting and unfortunate because, well, it's a monthly series and we've been doing 2 chapters a week for the past little bit. So I am definitely going to be missing the pace at which we're reading this. But nevertheless, it is exciting. It is fun. And I can't wait for season 2. I kind of feel like all of this is going to be season 3 stuff for the anime. I really, 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 really hope we get season 3. I really hope they're able to finish the whole story because, oh my gosh. Nevertheless, guys, that is chapter 35. See you guys on Sunday for chapter 36. Make sure you guys if you haven't already. We'll be back for more real soon.